48-hour art check, round 183.
Wow.
Yeah, it's good stuff. Yeah, so today we're going to talk about hope and risk, and we'll do an art check. So how are you guys doing?
Pretty good.
Right.
Good. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I think I just hurt my hand doing my workout right before this. It's like, so hopefully that's a temporary thing. But yeah, so should we jump in?
Sure.
Yeah, let's go for it.
Okay, who wants to start?
I can start, I guess.
right.
Let's see. So I kind of feel like I'm back on track with everything. I know before I just kind of felt like I just wasn't, that I had just kind of fallen off and I wasn't producing as much, even though it seemed like I had more time available, but I wasn't getting as much done. But I think I'm getting back on track. So I've been working on just some like Patreon rewards. As usual, I put out a video today, and I also shot another video, and I just need to do a voiceover on that. In addition to those videos, I'm in the background secretly, sort of secretly, but I'm letting everyone know. I'm working on my, kind of how to make comics series that's going to be coming out first of 2020. So I've got. If I mentioned before, I wanted to go back and shoot some B-roll and everything, and that took a little while, but I got all that done and I got it all edited in. So right now I've got 3 episodes sort of in the can. But I think the way I want to do this series is I want to have like a main episode but in the same week have like a follow-up to that particular topic that's sort of a little more of a deep dive. So those I still have to do. So if I get those sort of deep dive episodes in, and they're not going to be as flashy, they're just going to be me kind of just working and showing a process, where the other ones are a little very highly edited and everything. Probably the most time I've ever spent on any videos. And tutorials are just kind of like that. They're kind of hard to do. But once I get those done, then I'll have, a good 3 weeks worth. So I want to get at least a month of those done before so the first of the year I can start launching those. So it'll give me, because they do take longer to do, so I'll have a little buffer there. But in the meantime, I'm also probably going to do, my regular videos. So hopefully I will have 3 videos come out a week, maybe, or even 4 if you count the Artcasters, if it's on my channel that week. So that's pretty cool. So I've been working on that. I've been working on assembling some of my mini comics. So I want to get some of those back in the stores, because they've been out of stock for a while. So yeah, as far as the art front, if we're talking workout stuff, I'm continuing to run. Usually I jog for about about 4.5 miles a day, and then I usually maybe about 5 out of the 7 days of the week I take my dog up. I walk her up to the dog park, and it's about 3 miles there and back. And if I can't do that, then I just take her up to the park by my house, which is probably about 1.5 miles maybe. So I've been doing that, and I continue. I lost a little more weight this week, so I'm down as far back as I can remember. So, but the other thing I did, so I've got this, what do you call it? A Bowflex machine that my dad gave me. He had, but I didn't have a bench, so I couldn't do anything. So I actually built a bench for it.
Oh, no
so now
way.
that I got that, I'm gonna kind of look online and kind of figure out how to rig that whole thing up and figure out some exercises on that. So hopefully I can start doing some weight training, because I don't even lift, bro. So that's it for me.
That's awesome. You mentioned that you were thinking about building a bench, like last check, and so it's cool that within that like very small span of time you managed to like build that on top of all of that. That's really cool.
Yeah. I've got, like I said, I got a little more time, so now it seems like I'm kind of finally able to kind of start feeling that stuff. And I've been doing other stuff too, like of course my freelance stuff, and then on I've been doing a little work on the house here and there, just little things, trying to improve different things like that. So yeah, moving along.
That's awesome.
That's great. I'll go next. So I was gonna finish that fish animation and made some progress on it. I got the illustration portion done, and then I decided to do this instead. So, so I knocked this out. I'm gonna see if I can do 2 this week. My goal for the next little bit is just to see how many of these little animations I can do in a short period of time. So we'll see. But this one was kind of an exercise in masking, so it was kind of fun. And you can see I'm still using joysticks and sliders, and I'm trying to get some kind of realistic motion in there with the floating disembodied skull and burger. I don't know what realistic is in that situation, but I'm trying to get it to not look robotic. So yeah, so that's kind of how much I got down. There's a ton of random things that just kind of got in the way, but anyway, I'm happy with what's going on there. And then I also made it to, I got into the Kino London finalists for selection for the film festival that they've got there.
Right.
So another set of laurels for the animated short will be nice.
Oh yes.
Yeah, so that's kind of exciting. And yeah, so that's pretty much it. Just finish up some client work as far as the next step in that, and so that's back in the client's hands. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
That's really cool. We've of course been kind of talking to you about that and the win and stuff, but that's a huge deal, and that's really cool. And it's neat to see some like positive results starting to come in.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because it's you know, it's tense when you send out stuff for that kind of thing, where it's just a waiting game. And so like every win you get should be a celebration, because that's huge. So
yeah, I got four rejections in a row, and then two selections in a row. So yeah, hopefully we stay on that second trend a little bit longer before jumping back to the first.
Yeah, let's keep that win momentum. That's good. Sweet. And that animation's really cool too. Cool. So I managed to during Artcasters like last week, you guys might have noticed I was pretty distracted with my printer. So my printer went insane, and while I was trying to work that out, I managed to save over my roughs, which I've never done. So I had to like Photoshop from a photo that I took on my phone just to show my status. And luckily I had taken that picture, so I ended up kind of free transferring that, and luckily didn't have to redo all the work, but that took forever. And I finally got my printer working, and so I have been doing inks, like final inks for the page. So that's where I'm at right now. I have the front row of kids, and it will just continue you know, until I've completed it. And I also bought a ukulele, which is kind of insane. So I've been noodling on that. And the thing that I realized, I brought it to work today because it was like, it's so portable.
Yeah.
So it's something I can like noodle on at lunch, and actually can be like a nice little like relaxing kind of, you know, separate from the workplace kind of moment, you know.
Do you have a hard shell case for it?
No, I have just like a little soft shell. Should I get a hard shell?
Yeah, get a hard shell and a little moisture thing to kind of moderate the moisture, because they're so small that they can crack easily. Is it a solid top?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you just want a hard shell will keep it from, especially as you travel around from the desert to the coast. Those drastic changes in moisture in the air will cause the wood to split.
No, that makes perfect sense.
So, but yeah,
a lot of oil for treatments and stuff too on an acoustic. So I'd imagine the woods are the same as like on an acoustic. So I'm imagining a lot of that will help too.
Yeah. Yeah. Those are fun though. I'm excited. I sold all my ukuleles years ago. But
ukulele, you had a bunch? You owned them?
I started 3 different ukulele brands. So yeah, I owned several ukuleles, several acoustic electric ukuleles, and several solid body electric ukuleles.
Huh.
So yeah, with the piezo pickup, and several of them I designed from scratch. Like I would draw in Illustrator how I wanted them to be, and then we would make them that way. So
that's
my favorite is a zebra wood, a solid zebra wood top. Those just sound beautiful, but I'm not a musician, and so it was kind of a waste for me to have it. So
you didn't really play them? I mean, I thought you were actually at the point where you were playing them though.
Yeah, I mean, I can play like Vita La Vida and Yesterday and Blackbird and Eleanor Rigby, but that's about it.
Okay, so Cory, just as a side project, like when I'm done with this EP with my band, I might have to convince you to get a cheap uke and like we'll start a ukulele duo.
I don't know how much I can stress how bad I am at music. Like the complete and total lack of rhythm and ability to hear where I should be in comparison to what everybody else is doing is somewhat shocking. So
sounds like me.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons that I got rid of it. It was right as the time as I was starting to learn to draw. And I had started a ukulele club where there was a group of us that would get together once a week. And I just had told everybody, guys, I've got to quit because I'm going to learn to draw. And they were like, no, do both. And I was like, no, I've got to focus. And nobody understood. And they were all kind of mad at me. And then I got better at drawing, and I probably have stayed the same on the uke. So
that's cool. Well, anyhow, I'm excited to just kind of pick it up just as like a little side thing, and it'll be fun to have like a music thing I can do on breaks from at work mainly. So pretty excited about that.
Yeah. Okay.
But it's a weird instrument, and the tuning is weird. And it's funny because no matter how well you kind of hold the notes, there's just something a little funny sounding about a ukulele, which is kind of awesome. Like it sounds, it's just got like this interesting twang to it. So I'm enjoying it so far.
Yeah, it's basically like a guitar capoed at the 5th fret, missing 2 strings.
Yeah, with like the top string like strangely tuned higher for some godforsaken reason.
You can do a drop G. You can add a guitar string to that, and then it'll be more like a guitar.
I don't know though. I kind of like the uke part. It just sounds funny. I like the way it sounds. But I'm gonna mess with it and stuff, and I might have to. I just got a kind of fairly affordable one, and so I'll probably upgrade if I like it a lot. But if I don't, I want to learn on a cheap instrument rather than a quality instrument. Be like, oh well, there goes $400 or whatever.
Right.
So,
that is the nice thing about ukes is, the high end.
Oh yeah.
In the mid range are still a 10th the cost of like a guitar.
Oh yeah, like I mean, if you can find a guitar that isn't just like a complete piece of crap that has an entry level at $50, good luck to you. Yeah. but with ukes, it's like, when I go in the shop, they're like, these are the really good ones. It's like they run around $200, and I'm like, that's not that bad.
Right.
But anyhow, yeah. So, but fun. It's a fun thing to mess with. As for the workout stuff, I have gradually started getting back in the flow of it. So I've managed to kind of maintain it. But it is kind of interesting. We'll have to get into challenges, I guess.
Yeah. My wife told me there's a term called non-scale win, which is where you achieve something that isn't measurable on a scale. And I had a non-scale win. So there's this belt that I bought right as I was getting fatter, like 5 years ago, that I haven't been able to fit into in a long time. And I wear that belt comfortably now. So I'm down from 186 to 172. And apparently some inches that I'm not measuring. So
yeah, it's nice. Like I'm noticing, like I'm going down a size. Like I just went and bought like it's a little tight, but I went and bought a small jacket. It was like on sale. It was like a small, which normally I would wear a large or extra large. But I kind of went from like like I can get like a medium shirt now, whereas before it would be. I used to wear extra large because I like baggy, but I probably get away with a large. But now I got like medium. So, and same thing with the belts. Like I had to like actually drill a hole in one of my belts to make it tighter. So that's a nice feeling, you know. You can do that.
For sure.
I had to go, but you know, I have to go buy. The thing is, you have to go buy new clothes, and then. But I'm still at the point like I'm afraid to throw out some of the old ones because what happens, you know, if I don't want to gain the weight back, but if I do, then I'm not going to have any clothes. So I'm kind of, in some ways, maybe I should just get rid of it. So I don't have a choice. Like that'll be my punishment if I put on weight is I have to go buy new clothes again.
Well, you know, one of the main things that got me to start working out in the first place was I was working my day job and I had a day where I was like driving home from work and I unbuttoned my pants and was like, because you know, like the top button of the pants just to be like, all right, now I can breathe.
Right.
And like about a week later, I couldn't close one pair of pants, and I was like, okay, this is my future. If I don't do something now about it, this is exactly what's going to just continue.
Yep.
And so that is really cool. For me, it's been kind of interesting. I've had a bit of the reverse because I've been a very shrimpy guy, like the majority of my life. I've been like way underweight. And then, so like the weight issues are mainly just stomach, but I've never at any point in my life had any semblance of muscles. And the last time I was at the doctor, it's like my BM, my body mass index or whatever is like for the first time in my life, it's perfect. It's like exactly where it should be for my height. Like my weight is like at the higher end of it, which is kind of cool because I've actually been like way on the lower end or like way on the other side. And so that's like a mad, awesome feeling, and you feel a little stronger. Like for me, like adding the lifting and then you know, being able to actually do now 2 pull-ups is like pretty cool. It's pretty awesome. So yeah, cool. But congrats on the belt thing. I relate to that.
Yeah, that's fun. So let's do challenges and plans real quick, and then jump into the topic. So,
I forget.
Right.
I just look at it because you commented thanks Victor, and I commented thanks Victor too. But I forgot that it all comes up under. I think it all comes up under your name. Because I forgot that they were on your account. So
we're on YouTube and Periscope. And
so that's it. So it just came up twice.
Okay,
got it. Okay, that was me anyway. By the way,
I would also like to thank Victor in addition. So Scott, how about challenges?
So like nothing major other than like some Squarespace stuff. I mean, I'm beginning to have this love-hate relationship with Squarespace. I mean, I like the platform, but I'm finding as far as the commerce end of it, I'm starting to have some issues because there's just a lot of stuff that it's not letting me do. Like because at first when I first started, I kind of bumped it up to like the highest e-commerce package just so I could integrate with Printful. And I found I wasn't really selling any Printful shirts. For the most part, I sold a few, but not worth the extra cost because it's quite a bit of a jump. It's about $300 extra a year. So I kind of went back to just the regular platform. And what I'm realizing now, and I don't know if I'm just not looking in the right place or what, or you have Squarespace. I don't know if you've dealt with this, Cory, but as far as I can tell, if you want to ship internationally, you have to have that larger platform. And I've been getting a couple international orders, but it's the same thing where I don't think I get enough of those international orders to offset that $300 extra cost.
Yeah.
So then I was like, I kind of sent this person to Etsy. I said, well, if you order it through Etsy, it's a little easier and everything. But there's also a problem with Etsy because I actually pulled some of my products off of Etsy because I'm trying to roll out the free shipping thing because that's the only way you get noticed on there now. So I had to remove anything that was like a super low price because if you're going to buy something on Etsy for $20, I think the minimum for free shipping is $30. So I wanted to have all my products around $20. So at least that way, if somebody purchases one thing and they have to purchase two, it's not going to be like, oh, I'll just throw in this extra $5 item to get it right to that point. So it's just kind of, it's trying to work with what they're giving me as far as, they're basically, I've got to eat that cost. So I've got to find some way to offset that. So I went and re-uploaded some of those products, and then the person was like, yeah, I don't really understand Etsy. So now I'm trying to figure out, so now I'm just like, well, maybe I could do like a PayPal thing, and I could just, I'm trying to calculate the shipping, and it's just like, it's kind of a hassle, whereas now I'm kind of wondering if I should just pay that extra money, even though I don't get that, I don't know. I don't want to turn down, my international people, but I don't have enough of them to really justify at least this point. I mean, I'm hoping I get to the point where, I don't mind paying for that if I'm getting the orders and stuff, but
right.
It's kind of, so anyway, so I'm just, that kind of stuff is kind of what I'm dealing with as far as like Squarespace. So
I've been looking more into, Gumroad is making some advances. I've been looking more into like the Gumroad Squarespace.
That's all digital though, isn't it?
Nope.
Oh, it's not. Okay.
No, they've got physical products as well, and they've got some stuff that integrates a little bit better with things. I haven't tested it all out, but I mean, I probably move in a year what you move in a week is my guess. Is I don't sell very much stuff at all because I've never quite set it up. I don't promote it as well as I should, and my stuff is a little weirder. So, so I haven't looked. It definitely doesn't make sense for me to do the top.
Well, I still have my store envy site. And like when people do want to purchase I had somebody that wanted to purchase one of my shirts. So I still have those on there because that's all integrated with Printful. So right. But it's kind of like, if you want one of my shirts, if somebody specifically asks for it, then I can send it. But it's nice to have those shirts on my website, even though it's just like, it's just that extra cost. I don't know, I really, I love the idea of selling that stuff, and whether I eventually start, screen printing my own stuff or whatever I end up doing, I've got these different options and everything, but it'd just be nice to have it all in one place. I thought Squarespace was that thing, but unless you're really, you're selling enough product, then some of those plans just don't work for me. So
yeah, I kind of feel the same way. Upgrading to a higher plan it's not worth it. So I'm still trying to find a workaround with that, but that's one of the things in the next couple of weeks I'm going to try to experiment with. So I'll let you know if I find anything, because I'm going to go for free or almost free options. Otherwise I just can't justify it. So. So challenges for me, last week was rough as far as working, and I had several 12+ hour days at work and then client meetings. And then I didn't realize that like I'm over my contract load. Like I've been wondering what's going on this semester as far as like I'm just struggling to get everything done, and I just feel like I'm doing way more, and it turns out I actually am doing way more. So, which was nice because I got a little check in the mail for the equivalent of overtime, which was nice. But the main thing was like it was recognition that like I'm not losing my edge. I actually am like slightly overburdened at work. So that was good. And then just as far as challenges go, yeah, I mean, like Thursday last week, I sat down to read scriptures with the family, and after we were done, I woke up at 4 a.m. Apparently, I just fell asleep at 8 p.m. and slept until 4 or 5 in the morning, and then got up and went to work, I guess, because it was like, well, I guess that's what happened. So I think I've been pushing a little hard on the old sleep thing. But yeah, how about you, Josh, for challenges?
Pretty similar, like just kind of fighting exhaustion, just going pretty hard at work, and then kid got sick, some other stuff came up, just like family stuff, and finding myself just being really exhausted. Like the honest, like I really wanted to go to the NCS thing. Kyle Lambert's like stuff is amazing, and then like it turns out like the creator Kathy was going to be there, so I was like, oh, that's awesome, like I really want to go to that. And then just Sunday came and I was like, I'm at like -10 on energy, like I have no reserves left to pull from, so just trying to kind of maintain. But another thing that's kind of come out of that is like kind of having to remind myself, like sometimes it's enough just to do all the extra stuff and not pile extra stuff on top of the extra stuff.
Yeah.
Like sometimes I think it's enough to stay consistent with the comic output, and with the working out and stuff like that. I think when you overload with too much, it can be pretty daunting. I don't know. It's kind of refreshing to be like, I don't actually have to go to that meeting. Like it's a good thing to go to, but I have no obligation to actually do it, which is it's kind of like a relief.
Yeah,
it's definitely been one of those weeks of just trying to kind of juggle a million things and feeling fairly inadequate at the juggling.
yeah, I know the feeling. How about plans, Scott?
Okay, so plans. First thing, I'm still working on the Japanese version of the Comic Maker Toolkit, and Josh's wife has been very generously helping me out with some of the translations. So she just gave me a bunch more translations. So right now I'm kind of trying to plug all those in. I've got a few more that I need to have her translate, and then hopefully get all this stuff together so I can get that product off the ground. So I'm working on that. Let's see. I got an approach for a sponsorship for a video for a product which I would actually use. So I just want to give them a proposal and see kind of what they say and everything. And then I got to do some more Patreon content. Let's see. So I got to work on the newsletter. I mean, with like Black Friday is kind of coming up fairly soon, so I got to start, thinking about that. I want to start putting together some ads for the Comic Makers, toolkit. But after I kind of that sort of debacle with the Instagram, well, this might be different because I think I can run these ads on Facebook as opposed to Instagram, because I don't know if Instagram would convert or not. But it's just that whole issue with trying to get video files from my computer to my phone is just like, Apple is kind of a dick. So, but I guess if I can just try to run some Facebook ads and just test it out. I kind of know that there's a market for that product, because so far I've had tons of people approaching me, wanted to run bundles on it, stuff like that. So So I'm curious now that I know I have something that people actually want, if I actually run Facebook ads and try to figure that out, if they'll convert. So I'm going to try to do some of that around, Black Friday and just some other stuff, getting ready and get a newsletter. I'll probably, want to wait, because I usually try to put one out every month, but I want to wait till closer till the end of the month for Black Friday, but just getting all that stuff, all my ducks in a row for that. So.
Nice.
Cool. Yeah. So for me, I've got this animatic going. And so that is, I've got most of the illustration done for that. I've got the illustration completed, but I've got to get I've got to switch up cut up some of the pieces basically. So that'll be that. And then let me take that off and I will show the next part. So the main thing now is I'm kind of trying to write out this situation where I've got several of these selected. So you can see I've got award winner in the, I don't know how to pronounce this one, but Kosis in Slovakia, and then one in London that I'm kind of in the running for. A few that are not selected. I've got a few more of these, and so I'm still doing some research on which one of these to submit to, which one not to, and so there's a little bit of research there. But I'll finish that animation, and then along with those lines, I also want to see like promotion or anything along those lines, if it will help kind of ride this wave and see if I can get some more wins. But it's kind of fun. You can see there's my name as a finalist on the micro budget category. This seems like a super cool thing. So if anybody's in London, you should go check out Kino, because it seems pretty rad. I like their slogan too. It's basically like, just make it. Don't let money or anything else get in the way. Just make your thing. I can't remember the exact slogan, but so anyway, so a lot of that stuff going on. I'm just trying to balance my time and avoid doing what I normally do, which is make a thing and then ignore all the promotion afterwards and move on to the next thing. So I'm trying to focus on the promotion of this project I've already finished. So and I think doing these little animations for Instagram and Twitter will help, because it's all animation based. So when people see me doing animations and they see me winning and entering film festivals and getting selected, hopefully that kind of all culminates into something. So those are kind of my plans. So
I think those are good.
Yeah. Josh, did we get your plans?
No. So my plan is basically just to finish this first panel, hopefully. So that's kind of what I'm going to be working on.
Cool.
I will say though, I do think it's cool, the idea of like submitting and really giving a real promotional shot to something you worked on. I think that's just smart. It's really
yeah. It's a little outside of my normal operating. So should we jump into the topic, since that's kind of our topic?
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to try to get back into the habit of doing this, but today's topic is hope. And what are we talking about? I can't remember. We said it at the beginning. I was going to do the whole announcement thing. I forgot.
How would you phrase that, Josh?
I don't know. Giving things a shot.
Okay.
Reaching out, sorry.
It's okay. So today's topic is giving your projects a shot. So basically what we're going to talk about is we're all in different stages of things. Josh is on the final page of a 5-year comic that he's been working on. Scott is finishing and starting things all the time. Has just wrapped up a Kickstarter a few months ago and is launching some products. And I finished an animated short that I have submitted into a number of film festivals. And so we're all kind of in that stage where like promotion of something that's done is either happening right now or kind of on looming in the horizon. So I thought this might be an interesting topic because for me, I'll just give you like a little short history of me and awards. I don't know how to say this without sounding really cocky. So I'll just say it and you guys can judge me if you want. But like I've entered a couple local things, local advertising things, back when I was doing graphic design full time. And I kind of just swept whatever categories I would enter. And then I didn't see any additional work. Like I didn't see any additional like freelance work or anything come from that. And I think I'm just like located in an area where there's just not enough people for it to really matter. And so that was kind of the only experience that I've had with like entering and promotions and that type of thing. And so any freelance work or any work that I was getting, was me beating the bushes or happy clients talking to other people. But there wasn't much for like winning awards and doing that. Fast forward to this, I learned animation recently. It's probably been a year, maybe a little bit longer. I don't know. Time is weird, but it's fairly recently compared to illustration and design and video that I've been doing for decades. And so I finished my first animated short film. And I just thought like, I'm going to shop it around. I'm going to see what happens. And so I entered it into a bunch of film festivals. I've been doing everything I can to kind of like cut the cost, and I can kind of talk about that if anybody's interested. I don't know who's going to be entering in film festivals, but there's some tricks to kind of saving some money. But basically I've entered, and then I got 4 rejections in a row. And then this last week I got a selection, an award, and I'm a finalist to be selected. And then I've been invited to enter into like a more competitive category for one in New Zealand. And this coming week will be another deadline. So we'll find out whether I'm selected for that or whether it'll be another rejection. So that's kind of where I'm at. It's interesting. It's kind of uncomfortable as well because like I don't like accolades or adulation. It kind of it makes me uncomfortable to be praised. And so it's interesting that I was telling Josh and Scott, like, hey, look, I won this thing. And then I started to like downplay it. And they were like, dude, don't downplay it. You won a thing. I was like, oh yeah, you're right. It was cool. And I mean, I was honestly excited about it, which is why I was telling people. But I had that same conversation with several other people. I think about 3 or 4 times where everyone close to me was like, stop trying to make this not seem like a big deal. It's a good deal. Like you won, like, own it. And so I'm finding it difficult to deal with that without trying to downplay it or whatever.
Yeah.
Because I mean, on the flip side, I really don't want to be one of those people that's like, look at how cool I am. Because that's just not me. So anyway, so that's kind of interesting. That's what I'm doing, is trying to shop it around and get out there. And Josh, you recently had an experience with a couple situations on Artcasters. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, I mean, this isn't like a recent experience so much as just my average experience in life is I catch myself usually downplaying relationships I've built with people. So like we've had David Chelsea on Artcasters, but when it came to initially inviting him, even though this is a person I've like hung out in their studio, we drew together, we hung out together, we did like a 24-hour comic together. I suddenly just convinced myself, but this guy doesn't like you, so he's not going to be on your stupid show. Does that make sense? And yeah. all the time with like, I mean, we've had Amanda Meadows on. She's awesome. She's a buddy of mine. And yet before inviting her, my voice just did the same exact thing where I was like, well, she's a big time editor. She doesn't want to be on our show, you know?
Right.
I catch myself doing that all the time with everything. Like, and that doesn't just go to like guests or whatever. That goes to like, if I submit for something, I'm like, yeah, but they wouldn't want that, you know? It's like there's this like negative kind of downplaying voice. And I think what's behind that is just kind of like fear of rejection, really. I mean, I know it's lame, but I think that's what's behind it. Because I think at the end of the day, like, but what I was gonna say is kind of neat. It is the fact that like when you actually take a risk in art or like even on a show, like you ask somebody who you don't honestly know will say like, yeah, I'll do your show to do your show. Is occasionally you actually get yeah, I'm totally down to do your show, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or every once in a while you actually get the thing, the award or whatever. Or the publisher actually says like, yeah, we actually like this, we'll put it out. Like, I guess what I'm getting at is like, there's a thing that is really essential to kind of doing okay at what we do. And part of it's hope. You kind of have to proceed forward. Like even with Cory, like sending out that stuff, sending out your animation and stuff. There's a level of hope in the act of doing that, because by just doing that, you're hoping that some of these places will see it for what it is, right?
Yeah.
But that's also a really scary point to be at because like it's hard to admit to hoping for something because then if it doesn't happen, it's very disappointing.
Yeah.
And it's also like it's strangely it's interesting to me how often I have to like relearn the lesson of like I mean we've mentioned it before, but like that I'm not as great or as terrible as I think I am. Mm-hmm. I have to learn that all the time with things like with relationships with other people, with professional contacts, with art and like putting it out there and kind of seeing responses. Like I, you know, back in my heyday on Threadless too, every time I submitted to Threadless, I'd have designs where I'd be like, totally going to win. But then I would convince myself, no, like there's no one's going to care about your, and even on my like 9th win, right? I was like, yeah, but like nobody's really gonna like this is just those were accidents, right? It's kind of like an imposter syndrome kind of thing. Yeah. I guess what I'm getting at is like I think it's really important, and I need to get better at kind of clinging to and embracing hope because of the fact that's addictive. Like if you approach somebody to be on your show and you say like, hey, do you want to be on my show? It's kind of a stupid like little thing, and I know you're probably busy, and like that's way less intoxicating and interesting than somebody being like, hey, we have this awesome show. We go on like once every 2 weeks, or we go on it once every week. It, you know, alternates between my friend and my channel. We have a really dedicated community, and it'll be good promotion for whatever you're putting out. Do you want to come on our show and like do an interview? And it's a relaxed interview. Like there's no expectations. So it's like, right. You know, if you go to somebody like that, like it's way more likely somebody's going to be like, yeah, I'll be on that, than if you're like, well, I have this thing, but I don't know. It's kind of stupid. Right. Because like at the end of the day, if you're not hopeful for what you're putting out there, then how can you expect other people to be hopeful for the stuff you're putting out there, right?
Right, exactly.
But anyhow, it's just interesting. That's a total rant, but I guess what I'm saying is it's interesting to me that I have to relearn that lesson all the time, you know? And I'm always amazed when people agree to be interviewed by like Scott and I, and that doesn't mean I think what Scott and I do is cool.
Yeah.
Just like I will convince myself that like no one would want to, I don't know if that makes sense, but yeah.
No, it totally makes sense. And I wonder, you had mentioned that a lot of times you avoid it because of the fear of rejection. I wonder if the opposite is sometimes true for me because for whatever reason, I'm very comfortable with rejection. Like I almost expect rejection to happen. But what I'm finding is even a modicum of success, I'm like very uncomfortable with. So I wonder if it's the fear of having your hopes be like validated is kind of an issue. I wonder if that's a thing because
no, I think that 100% is a thing, because like even thinking about my scenario, it's like I kind of do think more of the fear might actually rest on the idea of somebody actually saying yes.
Yeah.
And then like, well, what happens if they come on and I make a jackass out of myself, right?
Right.
That makes sense? Because it's like the stakes are pretty low if somebody goes like, no, but if somebody you really admire is like, yeah, I'll hang out for an hour and talk, then it's like, then you actually have to
talk.
And similarly, like, if you actually get the awards, then you like, it's like legitimized and you have to live with the thing you put out that got the award and whatever the repercussions of that are,
Yeah, I've been going through this lately with students. It's been really interesting because I'll talk about this idea of if the idea of something is always way better than the execution of the thing, like in your mind, because in your mind anything is possible, and so the gaps, the negative parts of it, the follies, the failures, you can just feel better about that in your mind, and then they don't exist. The plot holes in your story aren't there because it's not outside of your head. As soon as you bring something into realization, as soon as you bring something into the world, you see it for all its faults and all its failings, because now it exists and other people can see it too. And it's always really interesting to hear people tell other people about their idea rather than saying, here's the thing I made. Because here's the thing I made is it exists and stands on its own or fails on its own. But this idea, people can get excited about the concept with you. And so I've kind of found this thing of like, if I win and this gets screened, there's going to be a number of people that watch this thing that don't know me and don't care about me and have no reason to root for me, and are just going to judge this thing that I made that exists on its own merits, whether they're going to judge it for good, bad, or ill. Whereas a rejection is a rejection. That's something that I get in an email, and then I laugh about it and I move on, and then no one other than the judges see it. And so it is kind of an interesting thing. And I don't want to name names because of what I'm about to say, but I've seen situations where people get accolades really early on, and then they go on to make like the full version of that product, and the full version isn't very good. And I think it was the promise of the thing that everybody got excited about. There's like a comic specifically that I'm thinking of where it was like a little ash can that everybody was like, this is amazing. And then they made the first issue of it, or the first trade paperback of it, and it was all right. But the ash can and the promise of what it could have been was significantly better than the end result, at least in my opinion. And I think there's always that weird fear that, once you make something, it's got to stand on its own. It's got to be good or bad. And so I think there's risk on winning and there's risk on getting rejections.
Yeah.
But one of the reasons that I submitted this to so many film festivals was because it was scary. And I have kind of a personal rule where if I'm scared of something that isn't going to injure me, that's something I need to seriously look at. because usually that fear is not grounded in useful survival. It's grounded in something stupid, like, how people perceive me or something like that. And so that was something where I was like, I made a thing. I could do my normal thing and, release it on YouTube, release it on Instagram, release it on Twitter, have a handful of people see it and pat me on the back. And then it doesn't get really any wide circulation. And then I move on and make another thing. Or what if I go for the gold? What if I swing for the fences? And it's been an interesting ride kind of doing that because you're really putting yourself out there. And I got some critique, which I don't disagree with, from one of the film festivals that rejected me. They gave me their opinion of it, and it was all these negative things about it. And I was like, yep, I agree with all of those things. Thanks for pointing that out. Anyway, so it's been unique to submit and receive feedback. And
I think that's touching on something that I think is really important, which is you should be swinging for the fences and you should be putting yourself in situations where you're uncomfortable. If you're comfortable, you're most likely not making a lot of progress.
Right.
And so, and I would say, let's say you are 10 years down the road and you're submitting these same festivals, the ones you won at, and that's the only ones you hit because you're like, well, I won at these, so I'm just going to hit those again. It's that would be probably really bad because, once again, it's playing your comfort to what you know will work. Sometimes being in the unknown and allowing the thing to have a shot at either succeeding or failing, it is a really good thing. And I think even when I'm done with this book, I will probably submit it out to publishers again and see what all I get back. I might not make any progress with that. I might, in the meantime, put it out and kickstart it. But even that, I feel trepidation about. And I'm not nervous about Kickstarter so much if it doesn't get funded. That is a horror story in my head, of course, and that would be really embarrassing and stuff. But I've had failures before and public failures before, so it's not really a big deal. The scariest thing about Kickstarter is, oh crap, what if I actually get it done and then I have to fulfill all those orders? Or up into the point of kickstarting something where it's well, now I actually have to design a book, and now there's reality stuff, that's making these things actually happen and putting them out there. What if I send it to a reviewer and they actually review it? That's a huge thing too, right? If you send out your comic to a bunch of comic book podcasts and one of them actually decides to review your work, that's a much more risky proposition, right? Because once again, like Cory, you were saying, it's you can kind of have it exist in this safe space amidst friends and in where you and your own approval are all, and then maybe the peers around you are all that kind of matter. But putting it into a wider space and opening up that dialogue, that's uncomfortable, but that's good discomfort. That's critique at the end of a class kind of discomfort. That can be really good. If you're in school and you're in a class and you don't feel uncomfortable during a critique, you probably don't have a good teacher.
Yeah.
I mean, you should feel comfortable with getting critiqued. But my point is, if it's a good critique, there's going to be a couple points where it's it kind of sucks to hear, but it's right. Yeah. So that's kind of, I don't know. I think kind of jumping in on that is a good thing. I don't know, Scott, is this reading hitting home for you at all on anything or anything comes up?
I mean, I'm trying to think of a particular instance, but I know I deal with this stuff all the time. I can't think of anything specific, but just that definitely that fear of, the fear of success. It's kind of just a weird thing. Like you guys are talking, I mean, it's almost like it's easier not to send that thing out because what if it does go big? Then that's it's a whole bunch of it's a good problem to have, but it's like, it's still like, oh, now I gotta figure out how to, make this work or whatever. So I wish I was trying to think of, I mean, I've dealt with it so many times when I can't think of anything off the top of my head specifically. Some of this with these digital products and things, and there's partnerships and things like that, like I've got, I don't know if it's the same thing or not, but I've got somebody who approached me that wants to do sort of a collaboration, and it could be a good thing because it's a very, basically what he was talking about doing was, super, I think would be great for both of us. It'd probably be even better for me because, he's got a pretty big platform that I think would kind of help me out, and he would get a product out of it and everything. But part of it is just, and I don't think that'll go away. I think as soon as I'm ready, if I contact him, we'll be able to move forward with that. But part of it was like, last I talked to him, we were going to set up like some sort of a base camp or something like that to start putting ideas down. And I haven't really followed up on it. Mm-hmm. So, but I've got other stuff that I'm working on. So, I'm trying to get a little further along with some of these other things before I approach that. But, part of it is like, oh man, this could be a good deal, but it's going to be a lot of work too. So I've kind of been putting it off, I guess. But,
so like something that comes to mind to me that I think would be a good analogy is like a lot of people have like a fantasy. Let's say you're like a single person and you're watching a movie and you have like a fantasy of an actress or something. You're like, wow, like love to take that girl on a date, right? You can play that out in all kinds of different ways and have a very successful fantasy, right? That's slightly fulfilling. It's a whole different world if like, what would happen just hypothetically if that person, if you were to actually walk up to that person and be like, would you like to go on a date? And they said, yeah. Well, now you have the reality of you have to go on a date with like a movie star, right? And right. What are you going to do to impress that movie star on a date, right? Suddenly, like the fantasy could actually become a disaster by having a success story, right? So, I mean, it's a bad analogy, but it's just like, I guess I was trying to think of a way to kind of solidify the difference between where it's comfortable to kind of live in the fantasy, whereas living in the reality can be a much more challenging, slightly more rewarding thing if it goes well.
Yeah.
But it opens up a lot of possibilities of different anxieties and different potential problems and stuff. So, but I do feel like you need to always hope for those things. Like you got to hope for the unwinnable thing in art, with your art all the time. Like you always have to be kind of pushing it a little bit past your comfort zone. And the reason I can comfortably say I think that's something you should be doing as an artist is like, that's literally the only reason I've gotten anywhere as an artist was by doing that, by like kind of being like, I'm not really comfortable with putting this out there in this contest or whatever. And then putting it out in a contest and seeing what happens. I'm not comfortable like submitting for this thing, so I'll submit for it. So very much like along the lines of what Cory was saying, I think if you have something that, if you're experiencing fear from it or like heavy anxiety, and yet it's not something that's going to kill you, a lot of the times that might be a really good signal that it's something that'll better you. Mm-hmm. So that's something to run toward as opposed to away from. So, yeah.
So I've got a question. We've talked about this, but it's been a long time. And Frank just joined us. How's it going, bud? How do you judge how valuable something is? So, for example, these film festivals, not all of the ones that I've submitted to cost money, but several of them do. And I know that there's a lot of illustration stuff, and a lot of comics things and things that cost money to submit to. And I've been toying with the idea of like how do you judge the value of something like that? The value of kind of putting it out there. You could even take it into every once in a while, I'll take like $5 and throw it out like an Instagram ad or a YouTube promotion or something, just to kind of see what happens, So how do you guys weigh, the value of something monetarily on that risk? Anything you think about consciously, or is it kind of just like, this is worth it, this isn't worth it?
Personally, I'm a cheapskate when it comes to contests. And I think this is different with film.
Yeah.
My experience with design annuals that charge money and design contests that charge money, I just find that like there's a design directory. I'm not going to name it, but anybody who's around in Illustrator can probably figure it out pretty.
You've probably been contacted by them.
What's that?
Saying you've probably been contacted by them
and I got contacted by them like year one of freelance, and I remember early on being like, oh, that is pretty appealing, and there's a lot of big illustrators in here, and they say it'll land jobs and stuff like that. It's like a $2,000 price tag. So years and years have gone by where I've just shot that thing down. And then as an art director, I've been contacted by those people trying to kind of peddle their wares to an art director. And I realized actually that I don't think they're closing to quite the extent that they were, because they wouldn't have to be soliciting every illustrator on the planet if they were succeeding. Like if it was a successful catalog, they would be being pursued. They wouldn't be doing the pursuing.
Right.
And so, but at the time, like early on, it was hard to kind of see that. In retrospect, I found that like I ended up in design annuals that I didn't submit to. Like people just contacted me and were like, hey, we want to put your work in this collection of like modern vintage illustration, or in this book about like t-shirt design history or something. And it's like that didn't come from me like paying a fee. So that's something I'm really opposed to in design and illustration. Like I don't like entry fees. However, keep in mind, I also have some friends who've picked up some pretty sweepingly good awards that came with a very large financial benefit and a big client base by paying those entry fees for like AIGA and for some of the bigger stuff. I guess maybe I'm just too much of a miser. Like I have never spent, like I don't even spend money on advertising, and that's something I should do. So that's like, I guess what I'm getting at is like, it's not something I'm opposed to, but I probably could do with being a little more open to possibly spending a little money, because it makes sense. I mean, when I work with clients, I don't expect them to advertise for free.
Right.
So why would I expect myself to advertise for free? I don't know. Scott?
Yeah. What do you think, Scott?
I don't do contests. I don't really, personally myself, I don't really believe in them. So I don't do design contests or anything like that. So sorry. I am excited that you're getting the accolades and things like that, but it's just not for me. I don't deal with it.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see the value of it, because I mean, having entered a few things in the past and won a few things in the past, it didn't really turn out. I mean, I got a couple of speaking engagements. I ran a couple as a keynote of a few things based on some awards that I won, but there wasn't anything where it was like I landed a big client or anything. But I was kind of on the design side and the illustration side, more on the design side. But then with this, film is interesting, and I don't know if I'm just like new to it, and because I'm new to it, I've been taken for a ride. I'm not sure, but at the same time, the setup seems different, because you're actually paying, a panel of judges to curate an event. And and it's not like I can look at it. It's not like they can look at an illustration and be like, well, that's good or that's bad, and move on really quickly. I mean, they have to sit there for the entire duration of the film that you've made.
Yeah.
And so there's some time investment of some professionals on the other end that kind of comes into play.
Yeah. I don't really know the whole film thing, but I will say this. I mean, I have seen, obviously you see, like movies come out and they've got the laurels on there. Whereas I've never seen like a logo design that says best in show or anything like that by it. It's just, I don't know. So my experience is only with the design contests, and I don't mess with them. But I mean, film could be an entirely different thing. That's nothing that I've really ever got involved in, even when I was kind of doing, video productions and things like that. So. Yeah,
and I wonder if those laurels do anything.
Yeah,
is there perceived value to that?
I think I'm one that kind of I do pay attention to like certain critics and things like that when they get a review. When movies come out with reviews, and sometimes you kind of watch them because if it's like, I don't know, if it's a like sort of a respected critic, somebody that I've listened to, versus some internet outfit that where they put the name of the thing really small. It's just like, oh, okay, well, so I guess it does kind of, so as far as for film and stuff like that, that might make a difference for me.
Like I can also mention, like, I mean, if awards didn't matter, then I don't know why all the best-selling kids books would have Caldecott medals on them. There's definitely some awards in some industries where it does matter. I think books are good. Like, books are a good example. The only thing that's a little unusual that seems unusual to me is, like, I think the film circuit charges, whereas I don't think you're charged to submit for like a book award. But then again, you might be. So I don't know. But like
you from what I understand on the children's book side, the publisher eats the cost of submission. And so, and you kind of don't have a chance to even be considered unless you've got a decent publisher behind you.
Yeah.
And so there's a little gatekeeping going on there because you've got, and Josh, your wife will be way more tied into this than I am, but there's a little gatekeeping going on based on, like the publisher. And so you get Penguin or Random House or Scholastic or somebody saying, I'm going to enter this book, then they take notice. But I mean, if you win a Caldecott, you're set for life. That book will never go out of print. It will always be in stock almost everywhere. And the royalties on that alone, you could live off of in a small town for the rest of your life and not work.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's the thing. Like, I think like Brandon Dayton too, like he got the YALSA award, I think, for his graphic novel. And then that actually put him on the map and got publishers interested in it. So there's a lot of scenarios where laurels, help. But I think at the end of the day, I think it's just like a per industry basis where it's like, like for me, if I see an entry fee, I'm usually pretty hesitant. But like I said, I think it's a little different with film, and probably a little different with a lot of the book awards and stuff too. So yeah,
and it's different as well. I don't know if I'm trying to downplay or mitigate what I'm doing, but water it down. But like, I once again find myself in an arena where I'm not sure what my goal is.
Yeah.
Because I know a lot of people enter film festivals because they want Hollywood to notice them and they want, to be picked up as a showrunner for the thing, or they, whatever. I mean, like Napoleon Dynamite is a good example. I mean, the film Pellicula or something was a short film. I think it was about 9 minutes and it got picked up at several film festivals, and then became a full feature film that became Napoleon Dynamite, and like that launched several careers. You know, I mean, you see a lot of the actors there, the producers, the writers, they're like still doing stuff. And that's like the goal of a lot of people, but like I really like my job and I don't want to go anywhere, and I'm not interested in taking on more work. I wouldn't mind selling the rights to something and having somebody run with it or being a collaborator on it, but like Put Your Heart Into It, my short film, I don't see where it could go. It's a contained story. You know, there's it's not like you could really expand that. You know, I'm sure there's ways to do it, but like ultimately, because I was asking Steve Leeper, I was like, what is the point of doing these film festivals? You know, like I'm new to this, and so I don't understand like the end goal. You know, if I'm not trying to get picked up by Hollywood, what is the end goal? And he's like, you know, it's just the way that people see your film. It's just the enjoyment of sharing something that you've made.
Yeah. And I mean, like, I think there's different goals too. There's the goal of just actually getting known for animation. And that usually happens through festivals and then through internet like presence, you know?
Right.
But festivals are what, you know, put a lot of these indie animators on the map. And that only puts them on the map because audiences pay to go to those festivals.
Right.
So, you know what I mean? So I think that would be the goal. And then I also think like professionally, it doesn't hurt to have like some laurels, you know?
Yeah.
It doesn't hurt to be like, hey, you know, this short film was nominated for me, I usually don't judge a film by like how many awards it won. But if I do see a film that's like won a crap load of awards, I'm like, maybe there's something to that, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, you know, there's also the possibility of, you know, extra internet, whatever, because several of these festivals, I could end up with IMDb credit. You know, it should be kind of cool because like IMDb, you know, is a heavily ranking site SEO wise. And so if somebody were to be like, who is this Cory Kerr guy for whatever reason, and they search my name, my site comes up and then IMDb comes up and they see, oh, like, you know, he's on IMDb. That can be a bigger deal as well. Cause I mean, that's on the flip side, like, you know, animation is super time consuming, but from a freelance perspective, you can, at least in my experience, I seem to be able to charge a lot more for animation than I can for illustration. You know, and being able to say, and I don't know at what point in time you say this, but being able to say like award-winning animator, you know, it just helps in negotiation of that price a little bit, you know? So,
yeah.
So all of that is kind of interesting as well, you know, and I think, I'm not exactly sure, but I think I will be on the Slovakian version of IMDb. I don't know what that'll do for me, but that's a thing. So, you know, it's kind of, I don't know. It's all new and it's all interesting. And I don't know where any of it leads, but it kind of feels like, it just kind of feels like what I should be doing right now. And that's usually I go with that. So I don't know where it's going to lead, but it'll be kind of interesting to do.
No, it sounds like a good exploration. And like I said, I think it just depends on the thing, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, any final thoughts on that?
I don't have anything.
Okay. So yeah, if you've got a thing and you're considering whether or not to put it out into the world or do it, risk something, you know, consider doing that because it's an interesting experience.
Yeah.
And getting, you know, getting your getting your finished product out in front of people that are not your typical community is kind of fascinating. It's a little risky and it's a little scary, and it's weird when you win and it's weird when you lose, but it's definitely different than kind of your own echo chamber that you've built. So I highly recommend it. It's been a fascinating experience for the last 2 or 3 weeks.
That's awesome.
So, all right. Where can we find your stuff, Scott?
You can find me at Serkworks.com. I'm also Serkworks on YouTube, pretty much Serkworks everywhere on the internet.
Cool. And Josh, where can we find your stuff?
You can find it at joshuakemble.com, and you can also go to quarterlystories.com, and that'll take you directly to the latest page of Quarterly Stories, the comic I'm working on.
Good stuff. And you can see my stuff at corykerr.com. Specifically right now, I'm about to post in mere moments this animation that I just did. And so if you want to help me out, what I'm trying to do right now is get some traction on Instagram and Twitter. So if you see something that I've done, like it, share it, comment on it, whatever you want to do with that. It just helps a lot. And we'll see you guys in a couple days.
Love it. Bye.